This is the Go Radio Business Show with Trywire.com.
Tom, we're both in the studio this week.
We're both back here.
Is that a wee tan I see there? Being somewhere nice and warm.
I was somewhere nice and warm, but I've done in my knee, Willie, so I'm hobbling about.
That'll be gout, Tam.
Sports injury, Willie.
Too many rich red wine and beef.
Sports injury.
Fell off a table singing.
That's it.
Right, I thought we would start this week. Obviously, the news this week, we've been talking about it for many, many weeks about growth as the only way out of a financial crisis. Edinburgh Council this week have declared them £1.7 billion of debt, and it could head towards £2 billion before in the next decade.
So I think it was a very good piece in the Herald. The Herald did a piece on Glasgow, where we are today. It's past, it's present, it's future, and now they're focusing on Edinburgh. I mean, how does a council actually get into so much debt, Willie?
Bad leadership.
Right.
It's like the other business. Bad leadership. Nobody's, looking to the future. Everyone's short term. And I think that what you see here is that, that they need to come up with ideas, for growth in Edinburgh. Edinburgh has a fantastic reputation for financial services.
Indeed.
Right, we always had a great saying, didn't they, that we make all the money in Glasgow and they store it all in Edinburgh. So we're the industrial heartbeat of the country. But I think that on a serious note, the people of Edinburgh should be very concerned, because this will only lead to more cuts, and it will lead to more rises in their council tax.
So you think, does it come back to the competency of who's leading it? Because you've said, and we've said on the show for some time now, that these councils have huge budgets. I mean, you've got Glasgow's number in your head. What's Glasgow's budget?
I think it was like 1.7 billion. We'll get Stuart coming on later. He'll probably confirm that, but round about that number.
1.7 billion, and perhaps, I don't know the leadership of Glasgow City Council, but I've always thought we could probably do better.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And it'd be interesting to find out as well what the number is for Glasgow. Because Glasgow must be in debt as well.
Right.
Obviously, they had the salary. They had to file 500 million for the unequal pay settlement.
Yeah.
So, but I think that this is of grave concern, and we have said it before. If the local authorities were a normal business, when you start to use the word crisis, like housing or debt, you would have everybody in a room every morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, saying, what are we doing? What are we doing? And we don't get any of that.
Well, I was very pleased on the subject of growth that you gave your esteemed leader, Sir Keir, my line that no country has ever taxed its way to growth.
Yeah.
And he used it this week, Willie.
Yes.
So I hope you took it as your own and no mine.
Well, I hope he backs it up. And to be fair, a lot of announcements about money for infrastructure, another 15 billion getting spent, roads, various things, links, try to link out, and a lot of it outside London, most of it outside London.
Yeah.
But for me, that we have to do more. We have to do more in relation to growth. There's been too much cut. And we look as if we're retrenching on a few of the things that we spoke about, quite rightly so, when it comes to the heat and fuel allowance. I think that it looks like Rachel has got the message that all the answers lie in growth. It looks like at the moment, bits of green shoots. And I would have to say, well, obviously, we can talk about the news this week about the extra spend in our defence budget. And what's intriguing about that is that Keir went on the TV to tell everybody the great news that we were going to step up to 3%. And the dust hasn't settled in 2 days when the EU says you better make it 3.5.
Yeah. Sometimes I think we're really interested in Donald Trump, Elon Musk and everything. And sometimes the viewers or the listeners must think, oh, how does that affect me? Well, this is a direct consequence of Donald Trump saying, I'm fed up taking care of you guys in Europe and Britain. You need to build your own defences. You've cut your defence percentage of GDP over the past 20 years. I'm not taking care of you anymore. So Europe and Britain have had to. Now, there is a moral thing which our SNP government kind of, I would say, hide behind of saying, oh, we don't want growth from munitions or whatever, but we have got a strong defence business right here on the Clyde, and it's a very good business, and it's going to benefit from this. There's going to be more apprentices, more decently paid jobs, more skills investment, and I don't know if the SNP are getting behind it, Willie.
No, and when we talk about the negative of the closure of Grangemouth, we could be talking about a really positive uplift here in Rosyth and in Govan.
Right.
Right, and other factories all around the country. So I think, and what I would say to John Swinney is, back in 2014, when John Swinney and Alex Salmond were trying to get the people to vote for independence, if they'd have been successful, your number one pledge to the people of Scotland is that you would keep them safe.
Yep.
So if you have your moral compass now is stopping you from investing in munitions or nuclear or whatever, what is the plan then? What is the plan?
What's the alternative plan?
Yeah, but what we say at the moment is, this is huge news at a time when it's all doom and gloom. Right, we could put ourselves back on the map again of the shipbuilding on the Clyde could become again, known throughout the world.
So here's another thing about growth, and I've got a problem with both the SNP and the Labour government, and it's the North Sea.
Yeah.
There's a new report out this week from Robert Gordon's University up in Aberdeen, and they're saying unless we get decent government policy, this is both UK and Scottish, we could be looking to lose 400 jobs every fortnight for the next 5 years. So I need somebody who's in the other side of this argument to write to me, to come on the show and explain to me how we are paying off our own workers in the North Sea, but then we import the same hydrocarbons from Norway or Denmark or someone else who has not paid off their own workers. That to me is economic madness. We've got to do both. And what Robert Gordon's report is saying is look to Norway or Sweden or Denmark, who are balancing hydrocarbons with renewables and doing it better than us. Come on, we need better policy.
Well, I think that you're right. And if you add the last two pieces that we've talked about here, unfortunately, munitions and oil have all got caught up in this political football. And I would just say to John Swinney, because he's the leader at the moment, right, that it was all political. When you're in a partnership with the Greens, you had to go down this path. I think we need a reset. And when you read the report from the university this week, that we need a long-term transition plan from fossil fuels. But it has to be a long-term, right? And it can't be just we want no more drilling, no more oil, no whatever. We have to run it in conjunction with how that we are accelerating our clean energy arrangement. So if we're putting new wind farms or we're putting solar, tidal, whatever it may be, there has to be a correlation. We don't do that anymore because we've got to there. So when we get to 50-50, we keep pushing on clean energy. But the problem you've got at the moment is, and there's no doubt, this whole thing is for John Swinney to say something against the UK government. This is for John Swinney to say something against UK. If the UK government were saying we want to close the oil rigs down in the North Sea, John Swinney was saying, wait a minute, no, that's not what the people of Scotland want. And I'm saying that with the financial situation we're in at the moment, First Minister, you cannot afford to tell people that we want to close down the North Sea.
So I read an amazing stat in this report, which is in Scotland's total workforce, 1 in every 30 jobs is related to offshore energy, Willie. That is incredible. For the rest of the UK, it's 1 in 220 or some big number, but 1 in 30. So politicians, you're letting the Scottish people down.
I would agree with that. I would agree. There's no plan.
Get your act together.
There's no long-term plan. On that and on growth, and I think it's kind of the theme that's through the show today, is that Gordon Brown came out with a report this week where he's saying that Scotland could create 300,000 new jobs in kind of the kind of STEM, the sciences, AI, everything to do with tech jobs, highly paid tech jobs, that if we put enough money into R&D, that we could get there. Talking about that, I seen some numbers this week that I couldn't believe. The US government gives the top universities in America hundreds of billions a year for R&D.
Really?
Hey, all grants for the government.
I don't think Trump's giving it to Harvard then.
Well, no, he wants to cut them all.
Different thing.
He only wants to give the money to universities that agree with him. But this is staggering. So when people think we've got all these geniuses in America, which there is, it's only backed up by government help to get you, that startup, that seed money, that R&D money. So I think that what Gordon's got to say, if the Scottish government, UK government has a look at that, there's absolutely no doubt that this is a fact. If you got behind these industries and put some money into it for R&D and created hubs, I think there's an opportunity of creating 300,000 well-paid jobs.
So I think exactly right. I'm glad Gordon Brown agrees with our Singapore report from Oxford Economics. He's obviously been reading that because we said in that report, pick the sectors. It's not often I would say to governments can pick the winners, but they can set the tone for the big sectors. It's quite easy to see the winners who are going to come. It's very hard to see which companies within the sector, but the sectors are there. I mean, it's obvious. In fact, there was good news in Scotland this week, and a company called, let me just check my notes, Wordsmith AI has been the fastest ever Scottish company startup to get to over $100 million valuation because it's using AI. And what the company actually does is it takes, as it's called, grunt work out of the legal profession, etc. So machines are doing that work. Don't know where those jobs...
The bills will go down.
I would definitely hope so.
I would
definitely hope so. And so I think there's some good news there. There's definitely some good news. Where do we want to go next, Willie?
The big business story this week of inward investment is the American takeover of Rangers.
I didn't think you were going to take me there.
There you go.
I must admit that.
So the San Francisco 49ers, led by another guy, Kavanagh, he came in and they've took over Rangers this week. But the reason why I mention it is obviously Rangers fans are looking for investment in their club, right? They feel as if they've been behind Celtic quite a bit now for over a decade, but they're not happy with some of the big decisions that have been made at the start.
What sort of decisions have been made already?
Well, there's a lot of rumours that maybe by the time the show goes out that they will have a new manager.
Right.
And it looks like that the fans are not happy with the appointment of Russell Martin, who was played for Scotland, was a manager down south. But I think that they thought that all these hundreds of millions were going to come in and everyone was going to be big time.
Well, can I ask you a question? Because you know about this. Are the fans ever happy?
No.
Is it ever enough investment?
For about 10 minutes at a league title party, or for 10 minutes after a cup final. But after that, it's back to... No, it's the biggest moan sector in the world is soccer. But it'll be interesting to see. It's another investment coming into the city, into the country. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm sure that we may have something to talk about on that in the next few months coming ahead.
Well, you can educate me on that because I know nothing about it.
You mentioned earlier, I wanted to talk, you mentioned earlier about the Singapore report and about, we've been talking about growth. I watched a fantastic piece on Bloomberg this week where they were interviewing 25 of the leading economists in the world. Right. And they were all making the same point about the biggest threat in the world at the moment is the lack of growth from GDP. Right. And they were all saying, every one of them agreed that you do not tax or cut or borrow your way out of a financial crisis. And I just hope that some of the leading politicians throughout Europe, but especially in the UK and Scotland, take that on board. that we had a launch of a 10-year growth plan a number of years ago, and we don't think one thing has happened with that plan.
I certainly haven't heard everything, Willie.
So, well, I think the person leading it and the next person leading it, I don't even think anybody knows anything about it now. So I would like to know, where is it? Where is it? Where's that 10-year plan?
Well, and just for all the viewers and the listeners, the Hunter Foundation got Oxford Economics to do the report, first in Ireland, second in Singapore. It's all there, free of charge, for any and every government minister to download. We did actually send it to every MSP as well, free of charge. And it's, you know, it, of course, and it really annoys me when some MSPs write to me to say, oh, but what about this point? But what about the other 99 points?
Yeah.
You know? So, and if anybody wants to disagree with it, get them on the show. We said it the last time. All the naysayers, I'd love you to sit here and let's get our jackets off.
Yeah.
Let's get into the debate. This is important for Scotland.
Totally agree. There's not enough of that happening. We're making proclamations about crises in debt and crises in housing. And if you were to say, go in and say, well, give me a report what you've done. Right. Nothing.
So,
nothing.
You know, in Scotland, the Scottish Government declared a housing emergency in May of 24. So we're 1 year on.
Yeah.
So you're involved,
Yeah.
I'm involved. I have saw not one iota of change to say, right, we've got a crisis, here's the changes we're going to make. It's exactly the same planning, exactly the same rigmarole, exactly the same pulling my hair out if I had any. Nothing has happened, Willie.
Yeah.
If this was business and you and me had a crisis in our business, and let's face it, we have crises every week.
Yeah.
We get the people around the table and say, right, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. I think, again, I mentioned it last week, to be fair. I had a very good meeting with the Deputy First Minister, Kate Forbes, and with Shirley and Somerville. And I'd have to say that I got the impression that they are genuinely, you know, on the same page as us, where they'd like to make a difference. But what they do, to be fair to them, and I think that Shirley Ann, who's just picking up on this more in the last few weeks, is that they do see it as a big problem. Right, there's so many facets to actually fixing the housing problem that it's just trying to get a fast route to how we can start building houses. But I would say that following that meeting, and I've got a subsequent Zoom call today to talk about it with other actors and who are playing their part and try to deliver a solution, that I would say that I am buoyed by that meeting. Let's wait and see what happens in the next few weeks.
Judge them by their actions, not their words.
Right.
Let me finish on, because I can't help it. Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The bromance is officially over. I think it lasted more than you and I thought, but it's over. Trump's words, he was coming out with one big, beautiful bill.
Yes.
Musk's words, sorry, I can't stand it anymore. This is massive, outrageous, pork-filled, I don't know what pork-filled means, congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination.
Yes. What pork-filled means in the
mean?
States is you're taking care of the rich again.
Really?
Yes.
Pork-filled means that?
Yes.
So, the bromance is over.
Yeah.
I was looking at Tesla's sales. I sold all my stock in Tesla about 18 months ago. Tesla sales in May, Portugal down 68%, France down 67%, Sweden, which was a big market, down 54%. He, I'm sure, is having a crisis meeting of all his team, and I'm sure they'll do something about it.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and you're right, I've seen all that, but in the spat that they've had with his statement, his comments, they have not attacked each other personally
Not
yet.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's really
Carry away.
But what's really interesting, but is it doesn't take long in the White House for the truth to get out, and you see that Steve Bannon couldn't wait to run out and say, No. He punched Elon Musk, not Donald Trump, right? The other guy whose wife ran away with, allegedly, right? But everything that everything is it. So Elon Musk had a black eye last week, and it seems that someone else in the White House gave him it. I think Steve Bannon says there was a tussle in the corridor.
Oh, really?
Right. So we would call that a rammy. But let's say.
So we're going to end this section on a rammy.
Yeah. A black eye for Elon Musk, which we did say would happen. Brilliant.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.
So my old pal's back. What do you call him?
Stuart Positive Patrick.
Stuart, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Willie. Good morning.
As usual, we cannot wait to hear your report on the city.
Delighted to get stuck into it, though. I wasn't quite prepared with all the Glasgow City Council budget figures, but I could make a go of it.
Right, go on.
Better go than us.
I'll have a wee go later on, though.
Right, okay.
Sermon from the Mount.
Well, indeed, we'll go with. I thought I would actually start this morning with the latest economic forecast from the British Chamber of Commerce. Growth for 2025 was upgraded from 0.9% to 1.1%.
Yeah, but
Wow.
Oh, yeah, great. Following better than expected business investment in quarter one. That's what's started it.
Right.
On the other hand, growth for 2026 downgraded from 1.4 to 1.2, given the weight of cost pressures on business confidence. And it's the increase in employers' national insurance contributions that's really adding to that.
Yes.
So June may turn out to be a pretty critical month for both UK consumer and business confidence. We've got Rachel Reeves' comprehensive spending review being published next week. We've got the industrial strategy finalising soon after. And we have, of course, as you mentioned, just had the strategic defence review launched earlier in the week by the Prime Minister on the Clyde. Great.
Yeah.
It's felt a long time coming, but we could get a much better sense of the UK government's priorities and the financial room for manoeuvre this month. And that, of course, has significant implications for Glasgow.
Yeah.
It's now over 10 years since the Glasgow City Region politicians signed a city deal with the UK and Scottish governments at over £1 billion, and much of that investment programme has been delivered. I suppose most recently, it was announced that over 1 million people have crossed the Partick-Govan Bridge since its opening in September last year. And of course, you've already mentioned George Square refurbishment having now started. The statues are in storage and the main contract for redevelopment is underway.
What are they going to do with it, Stuart? I don't really know.
There are hoardings all around the square. You could wander around,
Right.
see the photographs of what it is that they're planning to do. So I'll leave you
And
to...
are you happy with it?
I think it's going to be... Well, we needed it. We needed an improvement. I was
Right.
looking
Okay, sure. No one loves history better than me, right? But a lot of these statues were relevant back in the day. Has there not been any discussion at all about some of them only coming back?
Well, I hope Robert Peel isn't in that list of not coming back. He was the man that abolished the Corn Laws back in the 1840s.
Yeah.
That was one of the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce's big campaigns of the time on behalf of manufacturers.
We'll make an exception
You
for
in the
him.
chamber then, Stuart?
Just started.
But, let me just turn back, though, to that city deal. Glasgow City Region itself has also evolved over that 10-year period. We've got a pretty effective governance structure in place, which has been able to make additional programmes of investment, like the 160 million investment zone for advanced manufacturing and the Shared Prosperity Fund, which was set up as a replacement for European funding. Amongst the success stories has been the growing investment into those technology-rich industries that you were talking about, like advanced manufacturing, health and life sciences, and clean energy. And both Strathclyde and Glasgow universities, which have been both very well led by John MacDonald and Anton Muscatelli,
Sure.
hugely increased.
Do you think the original chairman should get a lot of the credit for that?
Oh, of course.
Are you on a statue?
Well, fine.
I think their commitment to the innovation districts that we've got in the city centre, on the Riverside and at Glasgow Airport are all really good demonstrations of what they've done for the city. So one of the questions we're going to be asking after all the announcements are made is how much priority has been given to growing industry outside London and the South East, especially how much is Glasgow and its surrounding city region likely to benefit? One of the lessons that I personally learned from working alongside partners on the investment zone and on the previous Innovation Accelerator partnership that Glasgow shared with Manchester and West Midlands, is just how much opportunity that there is to invest in projects, those R&D projects you were talking about earlier in those technology-rich industries. Your Tom Singapore report did include the lesson that proactive targeted industries was a critical ingredient in Singapore's success. And the UK industrial strategy should help us understand how the UK government plans to try to deliver on that. And if you look at the list of 8 industries in that strategy, Glasgow is pretty well positioned to do a good job of contributing. Advanced manufacturing, life sciences, clean energy, they're all in there. So too financial services, creative industries, which Glasgow has a track record in, and so too, of course, is defence. Could not agree more with the argument that Glasgow's advanced manufacturing sector can play a really critical role in solving the UK's defence problem. But we've got to move on from these political arguments about the importance of defence in Scotland if we're going to make that happen.
We mentioned that.
Stuart, it's petty and it's holding Scotland back.
Absolutely. I think really discussions about the definition of munitions isn't helping us to bring that investment into Scotland and into Glasgow. Our view, though, is that this is now the time for setting out the next devolution deal for Glasgow City Region. We hope the comprehensive spending review will make clear that Glasgow will get as much attention as the North and the Midlands of England. And we also believe that a new deal should be focused on building that momentum behind advanced manufacturing, life sciences and clean energy at the very least. And we're out there this week. At the end of this week, we will be out in China. We're taking a delegation of 25 to tell the story about how Glasgow City Region is building the new industries on the back of those technologies.
It's excellent work you do out there, Stuart.
We're taking 25 delegates out to the China-Shanghai International Technology Fair. We're specially designated. Glasgow is designated as the guest city for this year's fair.
Wow.
We're expecting 20,000 delegates. And the guest city status opens a whole new level of contact with business, government and academia for
Don't tell anybody when you're out there where our new munitions factories are going to be.
Well, there are 1 or 2 areas that we're a bit sensitive on, I'll grant you. But there's plenty to talk about, not least in clean energy, for example.
But at this point, 100% that Glasgow and Scotland should be pounding people saying that we are the answer for clean energy for the UK, right? And we're not doing it enough. You know, there's loads of things happening, there's investment, but we should be out there, we should be lobbying, we should be whatever we need to do, right? Is that if we talk about that transition from fossil fuels and obviously here, we should be at the forefront. People should get it right now all across the UK that Scotland is the place that's going to produce, that it's got the best. No, we're taking all our negatives, right, and turning them into positives. No, the wind, the tidal, every single thing that we have got. But we should, instead of being part of the solution, we should be saying we should be at the forefront of that solution in clean energy.
And I'm delighted to say that we've been getting support from the Offshore Renewables Energy Catapult and from the National Manufacturing Institute of Scotland for that delegation out to China, helping us to tell the story and make the connections.
And on the munitions thing, we should make the point that during the last war, Glasgow and Scotland played a major part in the war effort. We should be saying that we should be making a major part here to try to prevent the next war. And having these munitions is a deterrent for somebody wanting to attack you. We're not doing it so we can go and attack someone. So I think that we have to make that point. But you're right, we have to take politics out of this.
We've learned, you mentioned the United States approach to investing in research and development. And how many times has investment in defence led to really dramatic changes in civil society as a consequence? The internet being a very good case in point that was built on the back of defence spending in the United States.
I think there's been 2 million new jobs created with the investment for the US government into universities for research, right? And then they rhymed off all the things you would not have today if it wasn't for that investment in the universities.
Wow.
So we're 100% behind that view, and we really would like to see the comprehensive spending review recognising Glasgow's role and making sure that research and investment money is there for us to carry on spending for the benefit of the city region's economic growth.
Stuart, as usual, very positive reports.
Very positive, Stuart. Thank you so much for your positivity.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.
Tom, not a brilliant guest this week.
Yes.
He's on the show. David Wade, who's the founder and managing director of Enerpro. Welcome.
Thank you guys.
Welcome, David. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thank you.
So, you know what this part's about?
Mhm.
You tell us about your childhood. And was anything in your childhood that marked you out for the great entrepreneur you've become? But don't spend too much time on it because we want to get into the business side of it. But where were you brought up? What was growing up like? And was there anything that kind of marked you out?
Yeah, so brought up, born and raised in Thurso, very top of
Thurso?
Scotland.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right.
Thurso. So my father was ex-RAF, and then he was a commercial manager in Edinburgh nuclear side.
Right, okay.
Mother was NHS nurse for 40 years, and got my first motorbike at the age of 6.
6.
So that's you in the motorbikes. My whole family's in the
Brilliant.
motorbikes, mechanics, making, tinkering in the garage, as the wife calls it, and my mum calls it. So my father used to be going in the garage before work. So when they got their house, they boarded the door up, right? You work first, then go in the garage later on. So from a young age, always liked making things, very curious how things were put together.
Right.
And trying to do it quicker, more efficient. I just enjoyed that. So it was from that age then, I was very fortunate. I knew what I wanted to do. I like to make things. My brother got a mechanical engineer apprenticeship. My cousin got one. Mate's got one. I thought, right, this is what I like to do. But typical youngster at 16, wasn't really following model at school. Didn't really get on at school.
Right.
Struggled with this is what you got to learn X, Y, and Z. And I did struggle with it. I didn't really
Right.
suit that model. Parents got me a tutor, maths,
One
business.
size doesn't fit all in education.
Yeah.
No, and I think they maybe missed that slightly.
Yeah.
And boys and girls are totally different as well.
And girls are further ahead than boys.
Massively.
They
massively.
develop. I mean, it is true.
So for me to go off to uni, that wasn't an option. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was quite fortunate.
Right.
It's daunting when they say, "What do you want to do the rest of your life?" But for me,
But you knew.
I knew
Wow.
what I wanted to do. Wanted to build stuff and make things. So got an apprenticeship, and then started working making fabrication, mechanical engineering apprenticeship.
Right.
And we're sort of mainly focused up in Edinburgh, the nuclear site, working for a fab shop, working in the nuclear industry. And from then on, really enjoyed it. Things just made sense. You could make things. Physics was understandable. Maths was understandable.
Right.
And how you...
Very practical approach to it.
Yeah, I can see it in my head.
Your brain worked out.
That's how I work. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can hear it goes apart, how it assembles. And I'm in it. Doesn't matter the hours, I'm in it.
So you think like an engineer.
Yeah.
Same as Willie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant.
and that's how I can understand things. So from the back of that, then my uncle enticed me with oil and gas money. 2021, I wanted to go see the world. Didn't want to travel without making money. So with that industry, I shot off and started. Oil and gas was good. I lived in Morocco, Egypt, Casablanca.
Right. So who were you working for?
So I worked for a company called the Global Resources back then.
Right.
Really good company. And
Was it Aberdeen based or was it?
no, that's Invergordon.
Invergordon.
They were Invergordon when they opened
Right.
up NIG. So it was really good. Really enjoyed my time. And then I'd done the stints offshore, 2 on, 2 off rotations, which was good. But I liked a start, a middle, and end. So a large project. So oil rigs got an SPS. Think of it as a car's MOT.
Yeah.
Every oil rig in the world follows this rule. So you start, middle, and end. So it wasn't too and too mundane. I liked getting the project. So I started managing that side of it for the business. Got headhunted to another company. And then at a certain point, I was 27, 2015 recession came. It was quite difficult. Me and my uncle, who were working together, was like, well, let's do it ourselves.
Right.
Let's do it ourselves. Despite everybody saying, you're an idiot, what are you doing? You know, but I've always got that mentality. If you say you can't do it, well, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And that's what really spurred me. And offering a very fair project when you do it, start, middle, and end, operate with integrity and honesty. And it's good. When it's your own, people tell you how hard it is, but you don't really know how hard it's going to be.
Yeah.
So 2015 was extremely difficult for
So
everybody.
was there a recession in the
Oil and gas,
gas.
oil price was going down.
Right.
So we could offer still a competitive price. We didn't have the overheads. and we've always managed to give the guys a good wage.
Right.
But it's not about the money a lot of the time. It's about how you treat the boys.
So let me stop you and ask you,
Right.
when you decided to have your own business, obviously the key thing when you're starting from scratch is how do you get your first foot in the ladder? So how did you start promoting? Was it contacts you already had to try and get work? How did you get work?
Yeah, quite interesting. It's through relationships of who know you, and you have to really push on that
Yeah.
because they trust you.
Yeah.
But the next trigger is funding them. You know, because oil and gas is very volatile, and a part of our story we can go into later was oil and gas companies in America went to Chapter 11.
Right.
So the banks pulled their funding off us in the UK. So that makes it even more difficult. So
Right.
yeah, it's relying on relationships and it's getting accreditation. So you can't just jump on an oil rig. You got to be qualified. The company's got to be certified. So we done a wee bit of McAllen Distillery, put an 18-kilometre pipeline in there. And when we put the pipeline in, they were amazed at how efficient we worked. And we said, well, in another industry, it's all about day rate. You have to be ready. But guys offshore, you've got to really plan to every 10th degree.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment I thought, we're good at this. This industry is teaching us really good stuff.
So this is really interesting because what we've done here is you've went from a sector, because in necessity there's a downturn, but you've came from a sector where you're kind of nearly at Six Sigma, right?
Yeah.
There's no waste, you're top of the tree, and you went into a distillery, whatever, where they can't believe the quality. And this is what we're taught about now, what we're trying to change for housing. We're just trying the exact same approach.
Yeah.
You're saying it can't be done. We're saying we've been doing it over here in another sector for years and years and years, and we're going to show you how it can be done.
And you're bang on, because what they'll do is they were welding at a certain technique, 4 butts a day, 4 weld butts a day. And these were about metre and diameter cans. And we said, why are you not doing it this way? And they classed it as a nuclear spec. A spec's a pec. A pipe's a pipe. It's just how you go about the start, middle, and end of it. So our team came in and just blew them away. And
So that was the innovation that you brought to it.
Yeah, we brought it in a different outlook, and then got our accreditation. Then previous clients were like, right, can you do some work for us back on oil and gas? And then we just slowly, very organically got, 1 foot up, next foot up, and next foot up, and just grew nice and steady over time. Patience is something you have to learn. Doesn't happen overnight.
Yep.
People see, overnight success, but it's never overnight success. I took my first 3 weeks off after 7 years when I got married with my wife.
Is that right?
So it's we're going to be 10 years in September. So I bought
You
out.
don't remember that now.
I do. I am. I'm trying very hard. So the business it's full of ups and downs, but when it's your own, you get really passionate about how you're building it, and something we focused on. So we got back into oil and gas. Started focusing on doing projects, SPS work.
You're working with your uncle.
Worked with my uncle,
And-
then
And that worked out, family business.
Worked out great.
Yeah. Supported each other.
Support each other. We were sort of yin and yang.
Right.
He was old.
Which is what you need.
older and
You can't have
wiser.
two yings.
No,
No, you can't.
Two yangs.
No,
two yangs don't make a yite.
That's it. Aye. So he was more, what would you say, older, more cautious.
Yeah.
I'm more, thinking, pushing, and he was always planning to be quite short term into it. Got to a point, and then I bought Haughey out of the business.
Oh, did you? Right.
And it was good, it was fine, and then COVID happened.
Wow.
So then it was like a double kick where you don't want it.
Aye.
So it's a world pandemic,
I'm sure you already cashed his check.
He was out. He was out.
He was waving to you through his mask.
That's really tough.
it was a difficult time. But being family, you still chat how things going, and there's nothing you could do. Nobody had a plan for this. No roadmap on how to do it.
Nobody had been through it before.
Yeah.
So all I done was just kept in touch with clients all the time.
Right.
And over there, just kept on going and going. Everybody was remote. COVID came away. Got a small office, and the team flourished.
Right.
And I knew then this remote working is not for us in our industry, because you've got your finance, your engineering, your different divisions they're together. And when people with creative minds and you're giving them that room to be creative, it grows. So we bought a building, invested £2 million into Aberdeen, into new staff, into growing it, and yeah, we've gone up and up and up, and we're growing. We tripled our turnover, and it's exciting. It's not without its challenges, but what I've focused heavily on is culture.
Right.
I got an independent expert to come in, realizing where I don't have a strength, I need to go and get it. So the Institute of Directors was very good. they support us. Chamber of Commerce was very good. And we got I got a coach who sort of supported me. People don't really talk about it, they just think you get there. But I had a coach mentored me, and he put me onto his old coach, a gentleman from Glasgow, really knowledgeable, and just sort of stripped me down. And he was looking at me and he was like, you need to calm down. He says, your eyes are all over. And what I was was just doing too much, because panicking about COVID, panic about getting the wages, panic about the bills. And eventually you just got to settle back and go, right, roadmap it. We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, and just pick it off.
Good advice.
So the coach, his coach, the Glasgow coach, was he from this sector, or was he just a management?
He worked with Hilton, McDonald's, BP, Shell.
Right.
So it was quite unusual to come to an SME.
Yes.
Because he was like, where's the board?
With a bigger company.
He was like, where's the board? What's going on? What's this? But great, I don't want to be an ageist, but he was an older gentleman, been through the mill, and just was pretty frank, you know, when I needed to be told me, focus on my health, nutrition, fitness,
Balance.
Yeah. And I didn't do that. So now I've got a fitness nutritionist. I eat well. I do stretch in the morning. You know, I've got to get that balance, but that's only taken to year 9 to get that. And I think you have to be obsessed. You have to have this unbelievable desire to go and do it. And
it's a very interesting point.
Certain people get that.
And is your business doing the same thing with the same customers, or has there been more innovation along the way?
We've grown. We've grown to new clients, new customers. To yesterday, we're over in Tarragona. So we're not.
Where's that?
Spain. Over in Spain. So we were always doing projects internationally, but with a UK depot. But COVID shrunk us, so we had to really look back indoor. And it's not until you're doing a good project then you'll recommend to that person, and you know, you can go in with a flyer all day long, but until someone's going to cut you a PO for a lot of money, they know you can deliver. So they can ask me, how long will it take? And I'm like, because I've physically done the job. My guys have physically done it, and I'm very, very cautious of who I take into a meeting and who I hire, because you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah. And I always thought, growing my business, that having been there and done it and understanding what the end product was made things a lot easier.
Huge. And I was really bad at marketing and PR, you know, because engineer, you're just into it. So I grew Rachel, my PR marketing manager, she came on board. And so we're growing each division up. It's going really well. But it's not with challenges. There's, you know, challenges right now is probably the government. This government is not pro energy in a certain way, so that's a bit of a challenge. But you can.
So what do you think? I mean, without being political, what do you think about the future of the North Sea and hydrocarbons?
It's a bit of an open question, that, you know, being on a rig with the wells, there's enough oil to see your great grandchildren's grandchildren. You know, phenomenal amount of oil. There's a well in Norway that is still 85% full, and it was opened in the 50s. So we're buying it off them at a premium. They've got a really good green energy plan. They reinvested their money into the country. Scotland itself is not doing that. And to me, that hurts me. We need to, a really smart guy said to me, it should be energy addition, not energy replacement.
Transition, we've just been talking about that. We need a 40-year plan for transition, not a 5-year plan.
And typically, governments haven't really been too clever at some of these things. Get really good people that have been there, done that made things
people who understand it.
Yeah, and okay, we'll not be too political, but up in that part of the country, there's no support. So I was at a meeting in Edinburgh at the IOD. People just didn't understand it, the amount of wages, the amount of money. So people get a higher wage because it's a very dangerous job, but that goes back into the pot. There's a lot of poverty up there. So we are trying to grow awareness. The biggest challenge I'm sort of seeing is that, and apprenticeships. The next generation's not coming in.
No.
And it's difficult, you know, so we're being quite aggressive on how to try and get the new generation in. Institute of Directors is always good for critical thinking. If you hear it, don't believe it, do your research, and be quite positive, because I might not know something, but I can only speak from being in the nuclear, doing a bit of renewables, doing oil and gas, and that's what I think is a challenge, is getting a clear 4, 8, 10-year energy plan. We're going to be transitioning back out of it, but in the meantime, you've got all these wages that people are good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything in the Middle East? Obviously, big oil producers.
So we've been out to Qatar. We have been out there, but 2027 will be our strategy to open up a depot further, and that's just de-risking the business.
Yeah.
That's purely what that is.
Right.
I've got Scottish engineers, UK engineers really are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. And when you're in a room with them,
Yeah.
they're boffins, and you go abroad and they're really, really well thought of.
Right.
And I want the UK to start thinking of them like other countries think of us.
So,
Right.
so it's funny, innit? For a way back to my story about when I first started working abroad in Abu Dhabi and Dubai and these places, that was the first time that I ever heard from a German boss of Shell that the highest of regard that Scottish engineers were held in.
Yeah.
Right. This guy gave me a top job when he heard my accent. He didn't know how good an engineer I was or whatever. So that I felt really proud about that. And the two
Yeah.
things, if we talk about economic growth, in my travels throughout the world and now having a global business, I'm amazed at the two things that Scotland are right up there in is engineering and financial services. Right, so people trust us with their money. So
Yeah.
that's why you see all the big insurance companies will get Scottish call centres because
Yeah.
people think that that we can be trusted with your money. And I think Edinburgh's success is based on a lot of that. But it's interesting that you've found the exact same thing, David, that I found back then. Scottish engineers. So we have the talent, we have the people. You're part of that. You know, that global reach that we've got here, engineering from the north of Scotland. I think that we just need to do more with it. We do need more to promote it.
Encourage it, and we need to water it.
Yeah.
You know.
If you're talking to the Qataris, obviously, you know, the third largest producers of LNG in the world.
Yeah.
And does your skills and what you do, does that go into that field as well from
Yeah, it's really transferable, and that's the interesting thing about the oil and gas. It's totally transferable to renewables or to nuclear.
Right. Yeah.
But the other clever part is they're used to, the industry's used to working long hours because offshore, so people get things done. They have an urgency if the job's shut down and they need to push it, and that's what our industry is really known for. So when we went to the biomass site, my engineer manager turned up and he was like, "What about this? What about this?" And they were like, "We're not ready for this. We're not ready for this." And they're like, "You guys are like 10 steps ahead," but that's generally normal in our industry.
Right. And what size is the company today?
So at the moment, we've got roughly about probably high 40s, 50s in the company.
Yeah.
We're probably at peak, the business has had 190,
Wow.
and it was heartburn. It was really difficult.
Yeah.
It was hard. So we scaled it right back. That was for large projects, so we can upscale pretty well.
Yeah.
And then we use a lot of contractors, which in the Northeast, that's what a lot of people do. They'll work for me, work for you.
Yeah.
And that works for it's a business model because it keeps the risk low. So the core staff know that the cycles can come and go and the business will be okay, and we will ride it.
And so what you sitting at the moment, 10 million turnover?
Yeah. But we're wanting to go up to 15.
Yeah.
But you know, being transparent, you know, November, December, January, February, with the government change has been very difficult. It's been a challenge.
Yeah.
But you've just got to put your head up and get on with it. You drive it, you push it.
Do you think that you've got a unique service that you can offer, or do you think there's loads of people out there offering what you're offering? Have you got a USP?
Yeah, I feel personally we are. There is other companies, like there's loads of engineering companies out there, but the USP for us is the team's tried and tested, and they're very empowered. There's no corporate bureaucracy. We've got corporate professionalism, but there's no bureaucracy. You know, if they need to get things done, I'm empowering you to go and get it done. You need to fly offshore to do it. You need to go meet the client. Hours aren't an issue. You just get the job done to the client's satisfaction. A good job for us is a win for the client and a win for us.
Yeah.
Put them first, and then when they go, they take you with them, and that's what I've helped. That's what I found a lot.
Were you making the point there that it's actually hard for you to get apprentices?
Massively,
Wow.
massively hard.
So why is that, do you think, David?
Lack of apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Lack of apprenticeships. You know, the UK, the Scottish apprenticeships are dropping. Say for Doonry, for instance, used to take on 30, 40 apprenticeships. They do 8 now.
Yeah.
Oil and gas offshore companies are going down and down. So I'm the vice chairman for the associate members for the IDC, and we're at Institute Advanced Drilling Charter, and we're really trying to encourage apprenticeships and getting all the members to get apprenticeships. But the problem we're getting is, what's the energy goal? Why can we give someone a 4-year plan, and you don't want to get rid after 4 years? You've invested in them, and you don't really start learning until you're in your 5th year, until you're out of it, and then you're going, well, we don't have a job for you. So that's the plan we've got. You know, we need to get them back in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, we're importing steel from abroad because nothing's getting made in Scotland right now.
Yeah. No, you're right. The government is sending out messages. This is a dying industry. We
Absolutely.
shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. There's another 50-year cycle left.
If you look at P&A work, plug and abandonment, there's over 100 years.
Yes.
So what's P&A?
For decommissioning.
Decommissioning.
Right, okay.
And that alone.
It's 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the government has to make the operators do the plug and abandonment. So there's so much work out there still, but I think it was one of the larger operators, I'll not say names, I'm not quite sure, didn't get any graduates because it's a dying industry. So the narrative is really negative.
Yeah. So we need to change it.
The narrative needs to change. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right.
You know, hopefully this can help.
No.
And it's
I will also try and do that, right, with the people that do listen. I will try and definitely make sure that we feed that into them.
And it's not as if you're in it forever. You know, you can transfer, you can go to different industries.
If you serve time as a mechanical engineer, of course.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
That's what I done.
Yeah, same as me. David, fantastic story. Thank you so much for coming on. Absolutely brilliant. And we will be doing our bit to make sure that people don't think the North Sea is a dying industry.
No.
Not yet.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure
Thank you
listening
so
to
much.
you.
Thank
so
you
much.
very much. Thank you for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Brilliant. Tom, not a brilliant show, not a great week. So I'm hopefully going to go away and sun myself somewhere where you were last week, maybe.
Okay.
And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Look forward to seeing you. And remember, no country has ever taxed its way to growth.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.